In a small village nestled by a wide, dark river, lived a drummer named Kale. Every night, as twilight bled into darkness, he would sit on the riverbank, his large drum resting before him. His rhythm was a beacon, a steady heartbeat guiding lost travelers, fishermen, and merchants back to the safety of their homes. For years, the sound of his drum was the village's lullaby, a promise that no one would be lost to the night. It was a sacred duty, one he inherited from his father and his father before him. The villagers slept soundly, knowing Kale's drumming would slice through the fog and the whispers of the wind, showing them the way. One evening, as the moon cast a silver path across the water, something felt different. As Kale played his familiar rhythm, a soft echo answered back from the opposite bank. Boom, 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 boom. It repeated, perfectly mimicking his own. He paused, listening. Silence. He started again, and the echo returned, a beat-for-beat ghost of his own music. He scanned the far shore, but saw nothing. No fire, no silhouette, just the dense wall of ancient trees. He dismissed it as a trick of the wind, a strange quirk of the valley's acoustics. But the next night, it happened again. And the night after that, the echo was louder, clearer, as if the unseen drummer had moved closer. It was no longer a faint reply. It felt like a challenge, a taunt. Soon, the echo grew so bold that it would start drumming before he did, anticipating his rhythm with eerie precision. The sound was deeper, more hollow, like a drum made of old, waterlogged wood. A chill began to creep into Kale's heart. This was no ordinary echo. This was something else. The rhythm was his, but the soul behind it felt ancient and sorrowful. The villagers started to notice. The unsettling duet drifted into their homes, disturbing their sleep. Elders, their faces etched with worry, approached Kale. Stop playing. One of them pleaded, his voice a low whisper. You are not alone out there. Something old is listening, and it is learning. It's copying you, and what it copies, it desires to possess. They spoke of old spirits of the river, formless things that envied the living. But Kale was a man of logic, not superstition. His drumming saved lives. How could he stop? He believed it was just another drummer, perhaps a lonely traveler. He ignored their warnings, convinced they were spooked by shadows. That night, he returned to the riverbank with renewed determination. He would play louder, faster, and prove there was a rational explanation. As he raised his mallets, the air grew heavy and cold. He struck the drum, and a powerful beat boomed across the water. But this time, the echo didn't come from the opposite shore. It came from right beside him. He glanced down, and his blood ran cold. His own shadow, cast long and thin by the moonlight, was moving. Its arms were raised, and as his mallet struck his drum, his shadow's hands struck the dusty ground, creating a muffled, earthy beat of their own. Kale froze, staring in disbelief. He slowly lifted his hands, and the shadow mimicked the motion. He played a soft, tentative rhythm, and his shadow drummed on the earth, its movements a perfect, dark mirror of his own. But with each beat, the shadow seemed to gain substance. It grew taller, its edges sharpening, no longer a faint projection but a solid, inky black figure. It began to move independently, its shadowy form swaying to a rhythm only it could hear, its head turning to look at him with eyes that were voids of utter darkness. He tried to scream, but his voice was caught in his throat. He played on, a frantic, desperate beat, as if the sound could drive it away. But the opposite happened. As he struck the drum, the sound began to fade. Boom, boom, bow silence. His mallets hit the stretched hide, but there was no noise, only the dull thud of impact. The shadow, however, was now drumming louder than ever, the sound of its phantom beats on the ground shaking the very air around him. It had stolen the sound. It had stolen his voice, his purpose. He was striking silent beats while his dark twin played for the whole valley to hear. The shadow stopped drumming and leaned closer, its form towering over him. A voice, like the scraping of stones at the bottom of the river, whispered directly into his mind. It wasn't spoken with a mouth, but felt an ancient coldness that seeped into his bones. I will play for the ones who never came home, it said. The ones the river took. The ones your drum could not save. It was the voice of all the forgotten, all the lost souls swallowed by the water over centuries. The shadow then turned, its movements unervingly fluid, and walked directly into the river. It didn't sink. It simply strode into the dark water, growing fainter and more transparent until it vanished beneath the moonlit surface without a single ripple. Kale sat there, his drum silent, his body trembling, until the sun rose. He never returned to the riverbank at night. He locked his drum away, and the village nights grew silent and unnerving. But the drumming didn't stop. Travelers lost in the fog would still hear a steady beat guiding them, a hollow, mournful rhythm that seemed to rise from the water itself. It was the shadow, keeping its promise, playing its eternal vigil for the lost. Years passed. Kale grew old, his story becoming a local legend whispered to frightened children. Then, one spring, the river swelled with heavy rains, flooding the banks and threatening the village. As the people gathered on high ground, watching the churning, muddy water, they saw it. Deep beneath the surface, illuminated by flashes of lightning, a tall, dark figure stood. Its arms moved in a familiar rhythm, drumming on the riverbed. It was the shadow, still there, still calling out, a permanent, sorrowful guardian in the depths, forever playing for the travelers who never made it home. Thank you for watching. If this story sent a chill down your spine, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next dive into the darkness.